Hey everyone, welcome back to Rhythm Railroad. This is update number 37 of my HO scale layout. So it's early June. I obviously have not been putting up any videos for a while. That's because I've been very busy at work. But the good news is that things are starting to wind down now as we reach the summer. And I'll hopefully be able to put up more videos and keep you guys posted. So even though I've been busy, I have been doing a lot of work down here. On odd hours, or sometimes I get just like a few minutes. I come down here and I try to do the best I can, but I have little by little made some progress. So I figured I'd take you through it very generally today and just kind of show you what I've been doing. So the first thing and the biggest thing I've been doing is rewiring, and the reason why is because on my last operating session I found out that I was making a very big and very risky mistake. And that was that I was running the layout without any kind of short circuit protection. Not intentionally, it's just that I thought the boosters were shutting down every time there was a short circuit because the short circuit protection was built in. And even though I think that is true, it's not a very good thing because from what I understand, if the boosters keep shutting off and turning back on and shutting off, you can eventually create a surge into the tracks, which would then potentially fry your decoders, or actually do some damage to the boosters themselves, or any kind of list of reasons that why that would be bad. But anyway, so a lot of people explained to me that was very important to have, so I decided to go for it. Now, the first thing I had to do was figure out what surge protection I was going to use, or what short circuit protection I was going to use. And it seemed like the popular choice was the PSX boards. I forget the company that makes them. But when I did the research, it was brought to my attention that PSX made or the company made like an upgrade to the PSX. And it's now called the PSXX. There's an extra X at the end. And that would be the way to go because all the little glitches from the regular PSX boards would be not only fixed, but also, it would allow you to do new things that were not part of the PSX board. Now, what you just heard there is actually the PSXX board setting off an alarm, telling me that there's a short somewhere. So I've just finished rewiring and I'm testing things out, and I still have a few glitches here and there. That's one of them. So one of the issues that came up when I read the instructions and when I watched videos on this stuff is that if you're using frog juicers, sometimes the rate at which the frog juicer is switching the polarity conflicts with the rate at which the PSX board is tripping the short circuit protection. So I think that's what's happening there. It's the only frog juicer that's doing that. So I might either change out that frog juicer or figure out, a way to slow one of the two down to not have that happen. Anyways, so going back to my selection of boards, so I went to the PSXX boards, and I was just going to buy 3 originally. In fact, I did buy 3 originally that I saw they were available at, I think I bought it from Yankee Dabbler, and I was like, all right, let me just try this out. I figured I have 3 boosters. I need 3 boards. So I got them. But as I was waiting for the boards to arrive, I did a little more research, and I figured out that I can actually split my layout in a way that makes it better for operations, so that things shut down in smaller sections, and creates less conflict or less stop time in other sections. So, for example, if you short out the staging yard or the classification yard, which is the 2 typical places where shorts happen, the DNH line will not shut down, the CSX line will not shut down, the third level won't shut down, and other sections, the spurs and the white hole yard, that won't shut down because it's all separated. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going to rewire this. I got 3 boards. I'm going to get a few more. I decided to go with 7 total after planning like how many zones I would like to have or power districts. So I went to get 7, And the issue was that everybody ordered at the same time because this is a fairly new product, so everything was back ordered, and it took a very long time for me to get the rest of them. So finally, I got them. I would say about a week or two ago, and I was able to hook them up and start playing with them, and it's working well, but I haven't figured out like exactly the glitches that I need to rectify with the wiring, because it did require me to run extra wires to make new zones, right, so that it can be detected separately, and to do some modifications with the wiring that I had already done. For example, I had all of my yards and all of my spurs on the same exact line or bus. I had to separate all that by adding more buses or more wires to have the short circuit boards speak to them individually. So anyways, so like I said, I went with 7 boards. Let me show you what they are. I installed them over here next to the boosters, or on top of the boosters right there. So you can see the 7. I have room for 1 more if I need to split something up further. I might split the lower staging into 2 separate zones, which is already kind of split that way anyway, but I might do it because I think there's so much power going through the lower stage and so many locomotives sitting there that it tends to create problems on there. So, but anyway, so there they are, and I'll make another video on how I separated all that stuff and wired it and all that stuff. But this is just an update video, so let me just keep going here. When I got the boards, I noticed that there's a way to create a status panel so that it's easier to detect what is actually shorting. In addition to little like alarm pucks that you can install right on the boards. They're actually already set up for that. So I got the alarm boards, which is what you heard before. It's like that high beep. And I hooked them all up. They only had 6, so I got 6. I need to get 1 more for my 7th board. And then for the status panel, what I did is I made this myself. This is like a dollar store picture frame that I got. Cost me $250, but it's a cheap little picture frame. And then what I did is I took the glass out, the original glass out. I put in plexiglass so I can drill holes. I connected LED lights. I did green for when everything is okay, and then I did red, a whole row of reds here, so that I can see it clearly, moving to the red side when something's wrong. Now the status panel, the way it's working right now, I don't know if this is the way it's supposed to be, but when there's a short, you see the red and you also see the green, but it's faint, so I guess you'll see it if something shorts out right now, but I don't think it will. But at least I can tell that there's movement, so I can see very clearly that it's whatever zone is set off. The way I mounted it is I just took like some aluminum channel, put a little block of wood here, hot glued it in. But what I did that I was actually really happy with is that the wiring is actually an Ethernet plug. What do you call that? It's not a terminal. It's where you can take the plug and every wire in the plug gets divided into screw terminals. Can't think of the actual word that people use, but that's what I used. And I got a set of 4, so you could do. I think it's like each Ethernet wire has like 8 wires in it. So I got the 16 wires going through, and I was able to get. The 32 wires going through, and I was able to get all those wires to light up, to hook up, because I need 2 for each LED. So, and I have a few more left for the next board if I end up getting it. So, that's that. And hopefully this will improve my sessions when things go wrong. But as you can see, the layout is running. One thing I forgot to mention is that because I had to do some rewiring and moving around with the BDL 168s, the block detection in Digitrax is set up in 4 block zones. So you could actually take a BDL 168 and separate the zones within that board. So that's exactly what I did in order to make it, work better. And so I'm happy that was a possibility. And because I had to rearrange all that stuff, I also had to configure the CATS panel, because now the addresses, I had to move some wires from like one zone to another zone in the actual board, which then caused not a conflict, but the wrong section to be highlighted when it was actually a different section. So, that was a pretty easy fix. I just had to kind of fish for it a little bit, and once I figured out what addresses were setting off what zones, then I just rearranged them, and now everything is set up correctly. So CATS is working just as good as it was before. So anyways, after I did all this stuff with the wiring, I also started doing some scenery, because I was waiting for these boards to arrive and it took forever. So, I was itching to do something. So since the whole layout wasn't running, I started to work on this section here. So basically all of all these retaining walls and the ballast and the scenery here, like the ground cover, the foliage, the trees, all this, and then also this retaining wall, the weeds, continuing with the ballast, this retaining wall, all of this ballasting, and all of this ballasting here. All of that I did while I was waiting for, all the way up to here, I was waiting for the boards to arrive. So I'm glad I got that done, because the only good thing about back ordered things is that it's when you can get things done, right? Because you have no choice. So, it was nice because this is starting to look more like a scene now. And, I've been getting some nice pictures here that I've been posting on Facebook and stuff. What I try to do is I try to make my mainline ballast look very clean and very well maintained. I try to make my yard ballast look a little bit more banged up, with spills and grass and dirt and the different shades of ballast and stuff like that. I'm still going to be adding more details, but, the main idea is already there. Now I just got to continue. I didn't do it here because this is a little bit awkward to get under there and fix things. So I got to just take my time with that when I have some real time over the summer and just get it all done. But I do want to make sure I finish this entire corner of scenery, buildings, everything, before I start working my way forward, because it's going to be very hard to reach back there. Once I get this done, I don't want to be trampling this stuff to get back there. So I used, for the retaining walls, I used basically leftover trim pieces from upstairs from when we were doing the molding for the doors and for the windows. It seems to be a very good thickness because it's just under 3/4 of an inch, but it's also not as thin as a 1/2 inch. It's kind of like somewhere in between. I just like the thickness, so I did that, and then I used styrene like strips. And what I did is I just kind of glued them in, and then, well, that's not true. I put plaster all over the wood first, and then I kind of pushed in the styrene strips, and it kind of sinks into the thin layer of plaster. And then I just kind of cleaned it up, because the edges always accumulate a little bit of the plaster. So once I cleaned it up, it looks like it's part of it, and it looks very much like a wall. A few cracks. I left the imperfections there intentionally so that it would look more natural. But yeah, that's basically how I did all of this. And then once you get paint and washes and stuff on it, it looks old and weathered. For the hills, I used foam, like pink foam like this. I did purchase a hot knife tool, like a foam cutting tool, which is definitely a lot easier to work with than that rasp. And so I was able to get this whole shape, done in minutes. Once I got the hill generally, shaped, then what I did is I took some Sculptamold and some plaster cloth also, and just made it look a little bit more bumpy and rough and more natural. And then for the ground cover, this is a combination of some ground foam, dirt looking, like almost like a really dark brown kind of stuff. Then I took static grass and I kind of went all the way through, leaving some places uncovered intentionally. And then I took polyfiber material, which I use a lot to make bushes and stuff. I spray painted it brown and a little bit tan as well. And then while the paint was still wet, I just put some green foam on top of it, like some of the burnt grass or a darker color as well. And that's how I came up with the bushes that you see there. Now it still looks very much like it's just two colors. So I'm trying to like now blend it in with other things. Different shades of static grass or different shades of foam or little bushes with different colors and, things like that. So it looks more natural, like the backdrop. And, so once I covered all this, then this retaining wall I made out of, this is actually leftover sheetrock. But you would never be able to tell, right? It's the same kind of concept. I just covered the whole thing in plaster in a thin layer. And then I put the styrene strip at the edge. I carved in some expansion joints and just painted it cement gray or concrete gray, whatever it's called, and just weathered it. And so that came out nice. The piece of sheetrock I had, it was only this long. And I already had these laying around, so I figured I'd make use of them. So I just figured that this was like an old wall that was just left there. And then there's a more modern wall that they added. So that's my story for that. And then over here, I just covered it with a little bit more plaster. This was foam also. And I did the same thing. I just kind of weathered it like that. That looks pretty good. Then I just added like little grass, like overgrown grass on the sides here, because this is obviously just a connecting yard lead kind of thing. And, I'm going to add more weeds and stuff around, kind of like this. And just kind of tie it all in a little bit better. Now, the other thing is the backdrop. The backdrop was already there. It's not permanent. I've been playing with it to see where I'm going to put it. But this seems like a nice transition here. I just got to kind of cut it upward like this, almost like a little mountain. Or I might get another piece of, like they have connecting pieces for this. So I might get another piece and just kind of bring it down and behind this. So it looks like there's another mountain kind of behind here. That's probably the better option. But the nice thing about this backdrop is that from this angle, it looks like the hill is part of, like this hill that I made here is part of the hill that's back there, which then continues up. And the houses in the back give it a big amount of depth in the picture. The trees also allow you to create, like just by putting a few trees in the front, it looks like there's trees, kind of like a canopy of trees between the main line there. So that's my idea, is to put more trees here so that it looks like it's sandwiched, like the main line is sandwiched between the tree line. So yeah, once I get the backdrop in place permanently, then I just got to figure out this transition. That's why I haven't done it yet, because this is going into the city scene. So I think I'm just going to kind of taper it. They do make another thing that I can kind of shape into that. And then what I'll do is, that's my alarm. So look, the train is in the helix, and it's also in the third level because it just entered the third level. So I know that it's up there somewhere. And the reason why that's happening is because there is the third level PSXX board I didn't set up to be able to handle the large pull from the locomotives, and I'm running a train with 5 locomotives and resistors and a lot of cars. So I think once I add the jumper to make it higher amperage before it detects, it'll be fine. So right now, the train is sitting up here, and it's heading around. So this is where it created the short. Well, it's not really a short. It's just more like not enough power going through the track. So that drop makes it do that. But you can see it just rectified itself, and I didn't change anything. I didn't have to clear anything. That's what I think the PSXX does that the PSX might not do. It kind of figures it out for you, so you don't have to go running and fixing things constantly. But obviously, that's it's also telling me that you gotta you got to up the amperage for that zone. So that should be an easy fix once I get all those jumpers in place. All right, so while that's making its way around, let me just finish saying what I was talking about here. So once I figure out how I'm going to transition into the city zone, I think it's going to look really nice because it'll look like the trains are kind of going through like these yard tracks going into kind of like between the buildings and stuff. And that's kind of like what I'm going for. So more about that once I figure this out. But things are looking pretty good. I'm trying to think if I did anything else. Oh, the only other thing I did was here, but I think I might have made a video on this already. This little pond scene here, where it's kind of like a what do you call it? Drainage pipe, right? And there's like a little reservoir here, and then if the reservoir gets too high, there's a little place for a little channel for the water to go into. I have a little barrier here, but it would overflow over that. And right now the water is not too high, so it's my story is that this is all dried up, and so it's like the kind of like the bed of the little channel. So yeah, this came out really nice with the pipe, the concrete pipe, and the really still water. I was gonna go with the golden product here, like I did with my river scene, but I wanted this to look very, very still. Like every time I see pictures of things like this, the water is like almost like glass. And the Envirotex dries very flat, so that's why I went back to the Envirotex light with this. Later on, if I want to add a little of the golden product on top, just to give it a little ripple here and there, fine. But right now, I like the way this looks. Plus, I love that you can see the reflection of the trees and the weeds. And when the locomotives come through, you see them right there, especially at this height, which is kind of like where you would look at it naturally. So that's kind of cool. It's a nice way to get pictures here like this. You can see all the reflections and stuff. So I'm happy with that. And not much more has happened. I did just do little things like this, just kind of I'm trying to start shaping this. I'm not sure if I'm going to put like water here, or if it's just going to be a hill with dirt and grass and stuff. But when I come down here, I try to do little things as much as I can, and that's as far as I've gotten. I did do this. See what I mean? It's like little things all over the place. I did finally cover this area, the dirt. I painted it a dirt color, and now I got to do the ground cover and all that stuff, and also add the whatever I'm going to put under the signal here, whether it's going to be concrete or ballast or whatever, just to make it look a little bit more prototypical. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't think I've touched anything on this side of the layout besides just the wiring things. But this is all kind of status quo. Nothing has happened. The river is still looking great. Even with a little, like right now it's a little dusty, but it still looks great. There's so much shine. And the ripples really make it look like it's flowing. So I'm super happy with that. And that's the golden product. That's just the GAC 500 stuff. So, I think it's a great product. I like to kind of have options. So, we'll see where the rest of my water scenes go. But that's very good for that. And the other one is very good for the other one, for the other scene. All right, so I think I'm going to leave it there because I can't really remember anything else that I've done. The only thing is that as the warm season comes in, the wood is starting to expand, which is better in my case because most of my track work was done over the summer, when I first started. So the layout behaves better when the wood is expanded. And so, the gaps here are starting to close. They were very big. This gap was like probably twice the size in the winter because everything, the wood shrinks in the winter. But the good news is that, knock on wood, I haven't had any kinks pop up since last year. Last year I had a few, and the year before that I had a lot. So I think I finally have all the track kind of settled, and I hope nothing pops up when it gets very hot out. But I do have air conditioning down here and dehumidifier, so it should work out pretty well. All right, so like I said, this is I just went to switch the turnout and I got a short, so I'm gonna leave this here, and I'll hopefully at the next video you'll hear less beeping because I'll have all this worked out with the short circuit stuff. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you at number 38. Take care.